Welcome back. Another episode of the Player Spotlight Show. I am your host, Chris Shanfeld, and it's a pleasure to welcome onto the show 2020 NFL Draft prospect by way of Princeton University. He's quarterback Kevin Davidson. And Kevin, really appreciate you taking the time this afternoon. How's everything going?
Everything's going well. Appreciate you having me on, Chris.
Yeah, my pleasure. And Kevin, next week, it's going to be a pretty important week for you when looking at this draft process, as you'll be down in St. Petersburg, Florida, participating in the 95th annual East-West Shrine Game. I mean, what an opportunity, especially for you, Kevin, coming from the FCS ranks, coming from the Ivy League, and being a starter for just one season, seeing as you had to sit behind some pretty talented upperclassmen, to say the least, that I'll ask you about in just a few minutes. But looking at this opportunity for you next week, Kevin, you'll be the lone Princeton Tiger out, among many guys from, some of the top programs, Ohio State, Penn State, Oklahoma, you name it. Some of the top prospects in the country. You'll be smack dab right in the middle. What are you looking forward to proving most to the NFL scouts, the NFL decision makers, while you're down in St. Pete next week?
Yeah, it's just a tremendous opportunity. I'm very thankful, first and foremost. I'm just looking forward to showing what I've been working my whole life for. I went to Princeton knowing that I would have the opportunity to play at the next level. Pretty much you can go to the NFL from Division III, Division II, FCS, and obviously FBS. So I really wanted to maximize my education, grow as a person, be challenged in other aspects of life, because I knew it would all kind of fuse together and make me a better person and a better quarterback at the end of the day. So I'm just excited to get down there, meet my teammates. I've already connected with a few over social media, and just can't wait for the opportunity and excited to meet everyone down there.
Being from Princeton, I mean, having this small school label, like you said, Kevin, I mean, it really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where you come from, where you play at. If you're talented enough and you're viewed as a pro prospect, pro teams will come and find you, whether you're at Princeton University or Ferris State. I know there's a defensive end from Division II's Ferris State that's going to be in the East-West Shrine Game. There's even a D3 receiver that's going to be there. So, I mean, they'll find you if you can play. But being from Princeton, Kevin, I mean, I guess as you're going through this draft prospect, you'll have this small school label attached to you. Is that something that you kind of take pride in, kind of taking a route that it's been done before, but it's not really the ordinary route to the NFL?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, but I'm just really thankful for everything I've learned at Princeton, all the, fascinating people, fascinating professors I've had, and all the just alumni that continue to help this program and do really cool things around the world. I've had just countless people reach out to me when, they're, running hedge funds in Japan, for instance, or, just running businesses around the globe is pretty special. People in government in very high positions that I've been able to connect with as well. I'm actually writing my senior thesis on David Petraeus, who was four-star general during Iraq and Afghanistan, and then was the CIA director for just over a year. So really cool opportunities here, and just really looking forward to getting this process going.
And as I mentioned a little bit ago, it wasn't really until this season that you had seen some live game action on a consistent basis. You did play in one game your junior season. You threw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns against Brown, not too shabby. But you play behind some really talented upperclassmen at that quarterback position there at Princeton, being Chad Kanoff and John Lovett, two guys that are currently on NFL rosters. Lovett actually making the switch to fullback, playing in Kansas City now. I almost imagine that they'd use him almost like a Taysom Hill, but we will see. What was it like having to kind of wait your turn over the years, and what were some things that maybe you learned from being in the same quarterback room over the years and watching those guys from the sideline?
Yeah, it was definitely a bit challenging the first year or two, kind of being under them, because I obviously knew I could play the position at a high level. But at the end of the day, they became some of my best friends. I learned so much from them, how to be professional, how to prepare the best way possible for a game, how to lead, in the weight room, on the field, throughout the entire college. And like I said, they became my best friends, and I bounced ideas off of them. Once they got in the NFL, they both knew that I wanted to also go to the NFL. And it was funny because I think it was my sophomore year. I was rooming with John during preseason camp, John Lovett. And he was like, I really feel like we have one of the best quarterback rooms in the country. And that's kind of proven to be true just based on having Chad, then John, and then myself making the way up there. So it's been a fantastic journey. I've loved every minute of it, and I really have no regrets from choosing Princeton.
Yeah, I mean, definitely one of the top quarterback rooms in the country. I mean, that'll be pretty incredible and it certainly looks like there's a good chance, but if in a few months there are 3 quarterbacks, although Lovett not playing quarterback now in the NFL, but you get the point. If there would be 3 quarterbacks from Princeton on NFL rosters, I mean, that would be pretty incredible. This past season, your senior year, you started all 10 games, Kevin. You completed 209 of 313 passes, over 2,500 yards, and 20 touchdowns. You actually threw 7 touchdowns in a game that's an Ivy League record. That was against Bucknell. Can you just talk about that performance? I mean, 7 touchdowns in any game. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, how were things just firing on all cylinders? Were just about everything working in that game?
It's actually interesting because it started off a little rough. We had two series where we didn't get any points on the board, and I just grabbed all the guys and said, "Hey, we just need to settle down." We knew Bucknell's defense was top notch, and I mean they've been that way for a long time. They're kind of known for being a gritty defense. I said we need to just trust our timing. It was the second game of the year. We were still getting our feet wet, and I think once everyone really trusted the system, everything started flowing, and I think we scored on like 6 straight drives, and just O-line performed so well, receivers caught the ball well, and just continued to go up and get the rock.
Again, we're talking with quarterback out of Princeton University, Kevin Davidson, 2020 NFL draft prospect. When you hear that, Kevin, I mean, now that your time as a Princeton athlete has officially come to an end. Now you're gearing up for the NFL draft. You kind of mentioned it that, coming out of high school, you went to Princeton because you thought that there would be an opportunity for you to play at the next level. And now here you are. I mean, when for you did it really click that you had a legit shot at playing professional football?
I think after the Brown game last year, which was my only start, in my first start of my college career as a junior, I think it was game 4 or 5 at that point, and I didn't barely play after that start as well. But when I had success there, throwing to guys like Jesper Horsted and Steve Carlson, I just felt super, comfortable on the field and trusted my instincts. And I think after that game, I was like, wow, I can really do this. Because before that, it was always in my head. It's always been a goal of mine. But without getting the opportunity on the field, it's kind of just a dream at that point. So once I put it into action, I really put my head down, and this is what I've been chasing ever since.
Kevin, we're here in Chicago, and you mentioned Jesper Horsted, former Princeton wide receiver. The Bears pick him up as an undrafted free agent, convert him to tight end, and he was actually a training camp star here in Chicago, and then got the call to the active roster late in the season and actually made some really key plays for the team. The Chicago Bears, obviously, I'm sure you would like to strap up for any of the 32 NFL teams, but the Chicago Bears, they have a decision to make at the quarterback position, whether or not they're going to stick with Trubisky, give him another year. Nonetheless, they need to get a developmental quarterback. I expect the quarterback position to be a position that they look at very closely this draft season. What would it be like to play in Chicago, specifically to be reunited with Jesper Horsted in the pros?
Jesper's a great friend of mine. We stay in contact throughout, and I love talking to him during his season when he got pulled up to active and started making some great catches. Soldier Field is iconic. I remember going there as a kid when my family went on vacation to Chicago. probably like 10 years ago. But I just remember like driving by on the highway and just looking up and seeing that place. And it's always had a special kind of perception in my head. And, that would be just an unbelievable opportunity. Definitely looking forward to seeing how it turns out.
Absolutely, that's awesome. Especially seeing as you've been here once before and you kind of know Soldier Field a little bit. I mean, that would be great, and then obviously the familiarity with Jesper Horsted alone. A few more questions for you, Kevin, then we'll let you go. Hey, not everybody is tuning into Ivy League football, but for those listening, how would you describe your game? For those not familiar with the Princeton Tigers quarterback, how would you describe your game? What would you say are your strengths and maybe something that you'd like to continue to work on to get better at?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say my strength, just like in my frame, I don't really go down on sacks. That's something I've always done since high school. I pride myself on being strong and just tougher than the guys coming after me. And as far as my arm strength, I think I can make every throw on the field and do it well and do it accurately. And right now I'm working with Phil Sims. He's doing all my pro day and pre-draft prep, him and his son Matt Sims, who's on the Falcons. And I think just when you turn on my film, the mobility and pocket awareness should stick out. That's something I just throughout my time playing quarterback, I think I've had a good feel on how to move just enough to be able to still complete the ball downfield. And just I'm a competitor. That's what I've always been throughout all my whole life playing sports. I love to compete. I love to win, and I love to just prepare to be in the best position I can. And as far as weakness, I'd say my playtime as a starter. I haven't had a ton of starts as a college athlete because I was, like you mentioned, behind some good players ahead of me. But I think I really took that 3 years to learn not only about the game but about myself. And I've really just learned for 3 years to have the best season I could my senior year, knowing that I was going to start. And I think I made the most out of that opportunity. So I'm really looking forward to more opportunities and maximizing them to the fullest.
And, of course, that starts next week at the East-West Shrine Game in St. Petersburg, Florida. Kevin, you mentioned you're working with Phil and Matt Sims, pro quarterbacks themselves. The pro day and the combine circuit, that's going to be another big opportunity for you to show what kind of athlete you are and, what throws you can and cannot make. Are the details for your pro day, are they still getting worked out yet? Or will you be holding a pro day at Princeton or try and get into one of the bigger FBS programs? Or, again, is that still kind of being worked out at the moment?
It is still being worked out with my agents. We've been talking about it a little bit. And I think it really depends how the whole combine invite shakes out, and still waiting to hear on that. I would love, obviously that would be just a tremendous opportunity. But we're still waiting to hear from them to see if that's going to be a possibility or not. I think the decision date is by January 31st. And then based on that, we'll decide. But I think I'm going to have a pro day at Princeton. That's the plan as of now. Okay,
and, the agent process, what was that like for you? I'm sure that could be a really crazy, really nerve-wracking phase to go through, but it's one that all these guys do go through, and you got to make sure you're picking the right guy, somebody that knows what they're doing. Who did you go with, and how did that decision come about?
Yeah, I went with Sports Stars up in New York City with Jared Fox and Jamie Mullen. There were two guys who I talked with throughout the season, and honestly, throughout the season, my dad handled most of the agent process just so I could focus solely on football during the season. And talked with a ton of different agents throughout the season. My dad did at this point. And once the season ended, we picked about 4 or 5 that we felt were going to be good fits, and talked with most of them, and really just felt a mutual trust with Jamie and Jared up at Sports Stars. And I think they're going to put me in the best position to maximize my opportunities. They really understand my story of being a one-year starter behind 2 great players. And they really see the potential for having a great NFL career. So they've been just tremendous. I talk to them almost every day, and they come to also I'm training up in North Jersey, which is right next to New York City, so they're always coming by training to check in. So it's been a great relationship. I can't thank them enough, and looking forward to getting down to the Shrine game where they're going to be as well.
And final question before we let you go, it's a question I end all my prospect interviews with, and that is, let's say we have all 32 NFL general managers. They're tuned into this very interview. Why should they want the quarterback out of Princeton University, Kevin Davidson, a part of their team?
I think I have the unique ability that I showed at Princeton to, not be in the spotlight, continue to trust the process, work my absolute butt off, study the playbook, know it better than anyone on the field. And once my opportunity came, like in the Brown game, for example, I didn't know I was going to start until 2 days before that game. And I didn't really change much when I knew I was going to start. I always prepared like I was a starter every single game, no matter if I had any plays in the game plan or, zero. And once that opportunity came, I made the most out of it, and that's what I'm planning on doing at the next level. I'm going to prepare better than everyone. I'm a great leader, and I think I can command a room and command the offense and get a team wins.
Well, Kevin, I really appreciate you taking the time this afternoon. Really enjoyed this conversation with you, and certainly wishing you all the best as, again, you take on the East-West Shrine game next week. A very big opportunity for you, a very big opportunity for any prospect that is participating in any of these all-star games this month. Again, Kevin, really appreciate your time and wishing you all the best. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Chris.